From Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, this is the news at 10. Live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Ayotunde Balogun.
Hello and welcome. Tonight, U.S. President Donald Trump orders the U.S. military to launch strikes against Islamic State militants in northwestern Nigeria. Federal government says U.S. strike had President Tinubu's backing on the joint counterterrorism efforts to address ongoing threat of terrorism and violent extremism. Main opposition party, the PDP, criticizes the federal government for failing to inform Nigerians about the U.S. airstrike before it was announced by President Trump. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky plans to meet U.S. President Donald Trump on Sunday for talks aimed at ending the war with Russia. On sports news, Super Eagles aim to secure qualification to the knockout stage of the Africa Cup of Nations in their second group game against Tunisia in Fez.
On business news, the federal government confirms plans to implement the Nigerian Tax Act and the Nigerian Tax Administration Act on January 1, 2026 as scheduled.
And from the nation's capital, Vice President Kashim Shettima visits victims of Wednesday's bomb attack on mosque in Maiduguri, vows security boost for them.
United States President Donald Trump says U.S. forces have conducted powerful and deadly strikes against Islamic State militants in northwestern Nigeria after he warned the group to stop killing Christians in the country. The U.S. military's Africa Command said the strike was carried out in Sokoto State in coordination with Nigerian authorities and killed multiple ISIS militants. A video posted by the Pentagon shows at least one projectile launched from a warship. A U.S. defense official said the strike targeted multiple militants at known ISIS camps, although it was not explicitly stated if the strikes were those that hit terrorists in Sokoto State. Writing on his Truth Social platform, President Trump said, quote, "Tonight, at my direction as Commander-in-Chief, the United States launched a powerful and deadly strike against ISIS terrorist scum in northwest Nigeria who have been targeting and viciously killing primarily innocent Christians at levels not seen for many years and even centuries. I have previously warned these terrorists that if they did not stop the slaughtering of Christians, there would be hell to pay. And tonight, there was. The Department of War executed numerous perfect strikes as only the United States is capable of doing." End quote. U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth thanked the Nigerian government on X for its support and cooperation and added more to come. These attacks mark the first by U.S. forces in Nigeria under President Trump and come after the Republican leader previously criticized Nigeria in October and in November, saying Christians in the country faced an existential threat that amounted to genocide. Now, those airstrikes were indeed confirmed by the federal government through a press statement issued by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The statement explains that Nigerian authorities are actively engaged in structured security cooperation with international partners, including the United States, to tackle the ongoing threat of terrorism and violent extremism, and that the partnership has resulted in precision airstrikes targeting terrorist groups in Nigeria's northwest. According to the ministry, this cooperation follows established international practices and bilateral agreements encompassing intelligence sharing, strategic coordination, and respect for Nigeria's sovereignty. Nigeria's Foreign Minister, Ambassador Yusuf Tugar, who joined our breakfast program, Sunrise Daily, says the strike is a result of a strategic partnership with the U.S. and puts to shame the impression that President Bola Tinubu isn't interested in dealing with insurgency.
Nigeria has remained consistent in its approach, which is, like the statement says, to work with all partners that are committed to the fight against terrorism, irrespective of what religion, who the victims are, whether they are Muslims or Christians, and irrespective of what type of terrorism, be it terrorism being carried out in the name of one religion or the other, or indeed even banditry. So this is an ongoing process. We have been working closely with the Americans. This is what we've always been hoping for, to work with the Americans, work with other countries to combat terrorism, to stop the death of innocent Nigerians. So those who thought that there was some foot dragging, or the government wasn't doing enough, it is a clear indication that we are committed and we are prepared to work with all comers.
Okay, so we understand that there was some reconnaissance done before the strikes. Were we also involved in that, and how so?
It's Nigeria that provided the intelligence. I was on the phone yesterday for 19 minutes with Secretary of State Marco Rubio of the United States. We spoke extensively, and we agreed that I was going to speak with President Tinubu, for President Tinubu to give the go-ahead. And I did speak with him, and it was agreed also that the statements that would follow would be statements that will show clearly that it is a strike against terrorism, and that it is part of the ongoing joint operations between Nigeria and collaboration between Nigeria and the United States, and that it is not to do with religion, it's to do with protecting Nigerians and innocent lives of either Nigerians or non-Nigerians.
Now, the minister says the federal government continues to work closely with partners to weaken terrorist networks, disrupt financing and logistics, prevent cross-border threats, and strengthen Nigeria's security.
This is something that we've been working on for a very long time, not just with the Americans, but with others in almost all our foreign engagements with countries that have any influence over the flow. I'm sure you must have been hearing about the illicit financial flow. This is something that has been going on. We discuss it in ECOWAS, we discuss it in the African Union, we discuss it bilaterally with countries such as the United Kingdom, because London is a financial hub. We discuss it with the US because, the dollar is still the international currency or legal tender, if you will, and with China, with everybody at the BRICS. So it's clearly something. It's a no-brainer. This is something that we always discuss. And don't forget that we also have the non-kinetic approach to the fight against terrorism, which has been very effective. We have a safe corridor. Prior to Niger opting out of this multinational joint task force because of the failure of this strategy in the Sahel to stop migration that brought about the coup, we were actually, one of our challenges was how to contain the number of people that were pouring in, surrendering, particularly Boko Haram. But then this change, you saw an upsurge in Boko Haram activities, just like we witnessed this suicide bombing recently. We had, it had become a thing of the past. We're doing so well, which is why it is important for those that are concerned about terrorism to collaborate with countries like Nigeria, and in particular Nigeria, because Nigeria is a leader in the region. And that's how we can be effective. So we have to be sincere. And we are sincere. Nigeria is sincere about its purpose and about its objectives.
Meanwhile, residents of Jabo village in Tambuwal local government area of Sokoto State were thrown into panic yesterday night following a loud explosion believed to have been caused by an unknown object. Eyewitnesses there say the incident occurred suddenly, triggering fear among villagers who initially mistook the sound for an attack. No casualties were recorded as the object reportedly did not explode in a crowded area. A resident who confirmed the incident said the explosion caused widespread panic but resulted in no injuries. Security agencies so far have since been alerted and are investigating to determine the source and nature of the explosion. Now, the Minister of Information and Strategy, Mohammed Idris, has been given further details on the U.S. strike in Nigeria's northwest. Addressing a news conference in Kaduna, the minister explained that the operation was against two major Islamic State, that's ISIS terrorist enclaves, located within the Boni Forest axis of Tangaza local government area in Sokoto State. According to him, intelligence reports revealed that the location served as assembly and staging grounds for foreign ISIS fighters infiltrating Nigeria from the Sahel region, working in collaboration with local terrorist affiliates.
The operation was carried out under established command and control structures with the full involvement of the armed forces of Nigeria and under the supervision of the Honorable Ministers of Defense, Ministers of Foreign Affairs, as well as the Chief of Defense Staff. During the course of the operation, debris from expended munitions fell in Jabo, Tambuwal local government area of Sokoto State and in Ofa, Kwara State, near the premises of a hotel. No civilian casualties were recorded in either location, and relevant authorities promptly secured the affected areas. The federal government of Nigeria reiterates its unwavering resolve to confront, degrade, and eliminate terrorist threats, particularly those posed by transnational extremist networks seeking to undermine Nigeria's sovereignty and security. Nigeria remains fully aligned with its strategic partners and friends of Nigeria in executing coordinated actions aimed at ensuring lasting peace, border security, and regional stability.
In the meantime, the People's Democratic Party has reacted to the recent U.S. strike on terrorist positions in Nigeria, raising concerns over how the information was communicated to the Nigerian public. A statement issued by the party's National Publicity Secretary, Iniem Obong, notes that Nigerians first learned of the American strike against terrorist assets through the verified social media pages of President Trump and other U.S. officials. The opposition party says the Nigerian Ministry of Foreign Affairs issued what it describes as a vague statement hours later, only passively confirming the government's awareness and cooperation in the operation. The PDP adds that while it welcomes international cooperation in the fight against terrorism, it expressed deep concern over a communication approach where foreign powers announce security operations before the Nigerian government does, a method the party says does little to reassure the public or support the federal government. The PDP is therefore asking the federal government to ensure that defense agreements with the United States include joint operations. In part two, after the break, explosions in Ofa, Kwara State trigger panic hours after U.S. strike in northwest Nigeria. Please stay with us. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10, coming to you live on Channels Television Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. U.S. President Donald Trump orders the U.S. military to launch strikes against Islamic State militants in northwest Nigeria. Federal government says U.S. strike had President Tinubu's backing on the joint counterterrorism efforts to address ongoing threats of terrorism and violent extremism. Main opposition party, the PDP, criticizes the federal government for failing to inform Nigerians about the U.S. airstrike before it was announced by President Trump. And Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky plans to meet U.S. President Donald Trump on Sunday for talks aimed at ending the war with Russia. An explosion has damaged parts of 4 buildings in Offa in Kwara State, injuring 5 persons, including a couple and their daughter. The incident, which residents suspect to be a bomb, occurred around the Eid praying ground along the Offa-Ijago Road in the state. However, the chairman of Offa local government, Mr. Olatunji Suleiman, dismissed reports that the explosion is a bomb, stating that the military personnel that visited the scene are still carrying out their investigation. Meanwhile, the State Commissioner of Police, Mr. Adekimi Ojo, in a telephone interview denied any link between the explosion of the U.S. drone strike in Sokoto State.
Sometimes around 9:38 yesterday, we just have a distress call from this end that they just hear unwanted sound. And as the #1 security person in our local government, I have to swing into action. Immediately, I rushed down here. When we got here, we saw the level of the destruction. And I called on my DPO. This is what I was told. He rushed to meet me here. From then and that time, we have started contacting different kind of security operatives. And thank God, this morning, the Commissioner of Police is here, the anti-bomb squad are here, the military people are here, the Navy people are here, the MOPO, all the security agencies around us, they are all here. And we thank God, at the end of the whole thing, there was no casualty. We only have some little homes, and it has been taken care of. So we thank God for that. Okay. Precisely, we cannot say this is what that has happened. Though our security people are now on the situation, they are on top of the situation now. They are doing their investigation and examination. That is after their results, after their report, that is where we'll be able to say, okay, this is the exact thing that happens.
So let's head to the nation's capital now, where Millicent Walker is standing by to give us the latest from our Abuja studios. Over to you, Millicent.
Many thanks, Ayatunde. Well, staying with security, the Vice President, Kashim Shettima, has visited the University of Maiduguri Teaching Hospital to commiserate with survivors of the Maiduguri mosque blast. The Vice President, who was accompanied by the Borno State Governor, Babagana Zulum, and other top politicians in the state, says acts of terrorism would soon be over. He commended the Borno State Government for complementing the efforts of the federal government in supporting survivors of Boko Haram insurgency.
President to commiserate the sympathy the victims, reassure the good people of Borno and by extension the nation that the government remains unwavering in its commitment to secure the lives and properties of the citizens. The governor of Borno has been up and working around the clock to complement the efforts of the federal government, and we sincerely appreciate the efforts and investments in the security architecture by the Borno State government. But most importantly, we are united in victory as well as in challenges. We are one nation tied to a common destiny. By the grace of God, inshallah, this madness will soon be over.
Nigeria's Vice President Kashim Shettima speaking there. Meanwhile, internally displaced persons in Abuja are calling for urgent government intervention over the alleged possible demolition of their camp and the uncertainty of the future of their children. The appeal was made by residents of Durumi IDP camp in the Federal Capital Territory, who are urging the FCT Minister, Mr. Nyesom Wike, to step in and address their plight. Our correspondent Benny Ark has more.
The spirit of Christmas, hope and gratitude filled the Durumi internally displaced persons camp in Abuja as residents celebrate the season. The displaced families express appreciation to the federal government, non-governmental organizations and private individuals for their support, which they say brought relief and joy during the festive period.
We were happy before the Xmas, we were happy on Xmas Day, and today, Boxing Day, we are happy. We received a lot of support from individuals and some government agencies.
They are coming to our camp to give us help so that we will celebrate Christmas like others. The monthly gift is coming from non-governmental NGOs, families, schools.
Beneath the celebration lies a deeper concern. The coordinator of the camp is calling the attention of the Federal Capital Territory Minister to the alleged possible demolition of the camp and the impact on the education and welfare of children living there.
When people are not well fed, not well clothed, not well sheltered, and the IDPs in Abuja cannot access any medical care in Abuja for the past 6 years, I don't know whether the media that reaches out here does not highlight it. So people here are full of traumatic experiences, trauma of escaping, trauma of stigmatization. I want to appeal to the Honorable Minister of the FCT, Badison Wilson, Nyeson Wiki, COM, to consider this issue, demolition.
This land that we are on, this place that we see, it's not belong to the government. Every day by day they are pursuing us. As they are starting doing houses and taking people from camp to the place, we are pleading for them. Let them find a place that it belong to we IDPs in Nigeria, so that if we have our land and we are staying on the land, this is my house, this is my place, this is my farm.
The internally displaced persons say they are seeking urgent and compassionate intervention from the government authorities, as they also extend Christmas greetings to Nigerians, hoping the season brings lasting solutions to their struggles. Benny Ark, Channels Television News.
Well, let's take you back to yesterday, Christmas Day, over in Bauchi State, where there were several celebrations across the state. Although Bauchi is largely populated by Muslims, members of the Christian community say they freely celebrate Christmas peacefully within their neighborhoods beyond the church premises. Our correspondent Hajar Ali visited several Christian communities to capture the cheerful moments and the festivities.
Christians make up an estimated 10 to 15% of Bauchi State's total population. Yelwa, a community with a significant Christian presence, is usually lively during Christmas, and this year is no exception. During our visit, we observed children spending their savings on balloons and confectionery, adding color and excitement to the celebrations. Some children share food from one household to another, strengthening bonds within the community. Another common sight during the season is increased movement as people ply public transport to visit friends and loved ones. Notably, many residents leave their homes to celebrate, creating memorable experiences through social gatherings and dance events. We encountered a group known as Umuntamata of St. Joseph Catholic Church, Yelwa, who moved from house to house, visiting leaders of church societies, singing and dancing in celebration. The group shared moments of joy, music, as they served local drinks. Meanwhile, at the Kokin Church premises, another round of singing and dancing drew the attention of onlookers, with many, especially the elderly, watching with excitement.
Each 25th December, we come together and rejoice and jubilate because of the salvation we receive from God through Jesus Christ.
In feeling Kerewa Yelwankagadama, residents also took part in singing and dancing activities. Despite the dusty environment, the celebrants remained cheerful and energetic. We also cited some politicians who joined community members in the celebration.
I've come all the way from Abuja to come and celebrate this Christmas, to show love for our people and to tell them we are one in this country and we are one in Bauchi State and will continue to live in peace and harmony.
Even before the Christmas, there's no sign of any insecurity. Everywhere is very peaceful. That's why we even came out. And if we had sign of any insecurity, we could have not come out.
Elsewhere, some families choose to relax at recreational gardens where parents watch their children play games and enjoy the festive atmosphere. Hajara Ali, Channels Television News.
I don't know about you, but I think I should spend my next holiday in Bauchi. Well, still ahead on the news at 10, no going back, says federal government, as it confirms it will begin implementing the Nigerian Tax Act and Tax Administration Act on January the 1st, 2026, as scheduled. That's all business news. Please join us again.
Welcome back. The Household of God Church in Lagos have held a special service to commemorate this year's Christmas celebrations. During the special service at the church auditorium, the senior pastor of the church, Reverend Chris Okotie, says the birth of Jesus Christ signifies the beginning of new things. Drawing from some scriptural passage on the Bible, he goes on to say, encourage Nigeria on hope and faith in Lord Jesus as the world celebrates his birth. Our correspondent, Olu Phillips, tells us more.
The House of Prayers, Worship, and the Word fits the billing for the Household of God Church in Lagos. Very early on Christmas, congregants dressed in various Bible-depicting characters in the similitude of Jesus' birth and the events around it are here for a celebration service. Pastor Chris leads everyone in singing, worshiping, and invoking the essence of the season and celebration. And this rendition Pastor's Bible dexterity remains an identifiable trait. Quoting from the Matthew's Gospel, the 17th chapter, an interesting dimension is brought to bear regarding the essence of Christmas.
At Christmas, people don't know who Jesus is. They believe one thing, they think he's just a prophet, they think he was a good man, they called him all kinds of names. But that's the first angel, Lucifer, deceiving you. This Jesus that we're talking about is God of very God. I just showed it to you that his face was shining brighter than the sun. We believe that God came to us as a man through the process of incarnation, and he became like us so he can redeem us from our sins. You are not an animal. A cow cannot save you.
Everyone in service got special prayers based on their birth months.
Every desire they petition to us, everything they've said to you, I trust that you fulfill.
And his final thoughts.
Joseph, which means addition. Elizabeth, which means God's oath, that is the promise that he made. And Zechariah, which means God has remembered. I believe that when you put these three together in a concatenation of revelation, we have God adding to Nigeria, God remembering the promises he made, God bringing prosperity, increase, to make sure that our nation becomes what it must be. Mary gave us the Lord Jesus Christ through the incarnation, but Joseph brings the addition. So we can say technically, Mary, Christmas, Joseph, New Year.
Household wishes everyone Merry Christmas and a Joseph New Year.
The relaunch of activities of the Stanel World, a mega business hub in Awka, Anambra State, is still on with the hosting of the Anambra State House of Assembly and the Nnamdi Azikiwe University community, led by the newly appointed Vice Chancellor. The chairman of Stanel Group and the Delbro Lagos, Dr. Stanley Uzochukwu, receiving the August visitors, disclosed that the relaunch is part of a greater vision to add value to business activities in Awka, impact on residents while creating more jobs with the latest business development in Ozubulu.
The Stanel World Awka Anambra State hosts members of the Anambra State House of Assembly, led by the Speaker, Somtochukwu Udeze. On their arrival, the chairman of Stanel Group and the Delbro Lagos, Stanley Uzochukwu, takes them on a tour of the facility, which boasts of a 4,000-seater event center, as well as various shops dealing in clothing brands, and the Stanel Fast Food and Oporiche Lounge, which includes a Hall of Fame showcasing Anambra icons. The Stanel Group Business Development Manager welcomes them with gifts and VIP cars. Job creation is at the heart of the relaunch of the Stanel World Awka, as the Speaker urges him not to relent in the good role he's playing in Anambra State.
What we have here is replicated in Ozubulu ×2. Then behind it we have over 10 factories, where we'll be producing the water factory, nylon factory, juice factory, all of that behind. On the other side, we are going to have also a hotel, have the poultry, fish farming, and the abattoir continuously like that. That place will be employing over 5,000 people. What we are doing now, trying to develop a place where the younger ones, a labor market that will get up to 5,000 workers. I've been there, I've passed through there, and I'm going there. I'll continue to encourage you.
As the legislators depart, the academic community of the Nnamdi Azikiwe University, Awka, make their way to the mega business hub just in time to see a documentary of their hosts' humanitarian activities.
This is a man that, when you see all he's been doing for people, for the less privileged, you'll be wondering, is he doing things for any particular purpose? Is he going for governorship? No interest. I can tell you for free.
Vice Chancellor of the Nnamdi Azikiwe University announces that it's open for business collaboration.
And this place, by our own plan, is now part of the university. Our business park is being developed just at the fence near to him. In other words, we partner with him to develop the most successful business park in West Africa within the next 1 year.
For the academic community, it's an evening of relaxation and good engagement, as hopes remain high of better business partnerships that will benefit the university and the Stanel Group.
It's time now for some business news with Dominic Iwiwu.
Thank you, Ayotunde. And on business news, the chairman of the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms, Mr. Tayo Oyedele, says the federal government will commence the implementation of the Nigerian Tax Act and the Nigerian Tax Administration Act on the 1st of January 2026 as planned. Speaking after a meeting with President Bola Tinubu, which included the chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service, Zaccheaus Adedeji, and the chairman of the National Tax Policy Implementation Committee, Joseph Tegbe, Mr. Oyedele welcomed the position of the National Assembly on the allegations about alteration. He added that the intention behind the tax reform is not immediate revenue generation, but long-term revenue growth through economic growth.
We met with Mr. President to give an update about the implementation of the tax reform laws. As you are already aware, there are 4 of those laws, and 2 of them have already commenced, and that's the Nigerian Revenue Service Establishment Act and the Joint Revenue Service Establishment Act, commenced on the 26th of June 2025. The remaining two laws, that's the Nigerian Tax Act and the Nigerian Tax Administration Act, are scheduled to commence on the 1st of January 2026. We welcome the statement by the National Assembly House of Representatives Committee today on the findings and the work around the allegations about alteration. The federal government is committed to working with the National Assembly if and when any action is required. And therefore, they plan to commence the new law, the two remaining new laws on the 1st of January 2026. We go ahead as planned on schedule because these reforms are designed to provide relief to the Nigerian people. Bottom 98% of workers will see either no PAYE tax or lower taxes to be paid.
Now, dollar inflows from international money transfer operator into Nigeria declined by 11.78% in the first half of 2025 compared with the same period of last year. And this is according to the latest data from the Central Bank's quarterly statistical bulletin. The report indicates that IMTO receipts fell by $275.93 million year-on-year to $2.07 billion between January and June 2025, down from $2.34 billion recorded in the same period last year. The decline in IMTO receipts indicates pressure in one of the country's sources of non-oil foreign exchange amid wider policy reforms by monetary authorities to support market liquidity. Financial market traders attribute the drop within the period to fluctuations in the FX market and global economic conditions. The Petroleum Products Retail Outlets Owners Association of Nigeria has renewed its call for the privatization of Nigeria's 4 state-owned refineries as it asks the federal government to transparently conclude the processes by the first quarter of 2026. In a statement issued by its national president, Billy Gillis-Harry, the association says sustained public funding of the refineries has failed to deliver optimal results over the years, making private sector-led management inevitable if the country is to achieve energy security and stability in the downstream petroleum sector. The association explained that if properly executed, the privatization of the refineries would encourage competition, ensure sustainable refinery operations, reduce Nigeria's dependence on imported petroleum products, conserve foreign exchange, and support job creation across the value chain. The federal government has secured about $1.2 billion in financing from the United Arab Emirates to advance construction of a key segment of the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway. According to a statement from the presidency, the funding will be applied to a 56-kilometer section of the Coastal Freeway, one of the federal government's flagship infrastructure projects. The latest UAE-backed facility strengthens funding certainty for one of Nigeria's largest road projects and signals sustained international confidence in the country's infrastructure program. When completed, the highway is expected to span 700 kilometers along Nigeria's Atlantic coastline, linking major economic and commercial centers. Meanwhile, President Bola Tinubu says the deal ensures uninterrupted progress on the project as the government intensifies efforts to close Nigeria's infrastructure gap. And now Nigeria's stock market and some European bosses are still on Christmas break, but their counterparts in the United States and Asia were open for business, with S&P 500 reaching a new high today. Here are some of the global market figures for Friday. And that's it on Business News. Back to Ayotunde for the rest of the news at 10.
Many thanks, Dominic. International news is up next with Around the World in 5 from our London studios. Simon Pusey.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Ukraine's Volodymyr Zelensky has said he will meet US President Donald Trump in Florida at the weekend as talks continue on ending Russia's full-scale war. Zelensky said he expected the meeting to take place on Sunday and to focus on a US-brokered 20-point peace plan as well as separate proposals for US security guarantees. Meanwhile, the Kremlin says President Vladimir Putin's senior aide has held further talks with US officials over the phone and that Russia has committed to continuing with the negotiations. There's been mixed international reaction to the US military strikes in northwest Nigeria. Independent experts have raised questions over the apparent target of the operation, as well as any domestic motivation Donald Trump may have had. The UK government has not commented on the strikes in Nigeria, which is a Commonwealth nation, but a source has said that the Foreign Office recognises the significant threat terror groups present at home and abroad.
We know that for months there has been sectarian violence in Nigeria. We know that Christians have died at the hands of terrorist groups like ISIS, like Boko Haram. There have also been a lot of Muslims killed by both of those terrorist organizations as well in Nigeria. President Trump specifically naming Christians, saying that is the reason that the U.S. struck on Christmas Day, and that strikes will continue, the president says, if Christians continue to be targeted.
Heavy rainstorms across large parts of California have triggered floods and mudslides and left 3 dead as of Christmas night. The storms, which were expected to continue through Friday, brought 11 inches of rainfall to some parts of Los Angeles County, prompted evacuations and shut down major roads. Emergency responders have had to perform several rescues, including people stuck in vehicles as floodwaters rise. For weeks now, angry and distressed residents in Indonesia's westernmost province over the state's slow response to a series of deadly floods. Triggered by a rare cyclone in November, the deluge killed more than 1,000 people and displaced hundreds of thousands across the island of Sumatra. In Aceh, the worst-hit region, which accounted for nearly half of all deaths, many still do not have access to clean water, food, electricity and medical supplies. Pope Leo has urged Ukraine and Russia to find the courage to hold direct talks to end the war during his first Christmas remarks to crowds in St. Peter's Square. He called for an end to conflicts around the world during his address, which is traditionally delivered by the pontiff on Christmas Day to worshippers gathered in Vatican City. Speaking about Ukraine, the Pope said, "May the clamour of weapons cease, and may the parties involved, with the support and commitment of the international community, find the courage to engage in sincere, direct and respectful dialogue." Tariq Rahman, the front-runner to be the next Prime Minister of Bangladesh, has returned to the country after 17 years in exile ahead of a landmark general election. The 60-year-old is the figurehead of the influential Zia family and the son of the former Prime Minister Khaleda Zia. The party he leads, the Bangladesh Nationalist Party, is eyeing a return to power when Bangladesh goes to the polls in the new year. Rahman, who has lived in London since 2008, is expected to become the country's new leader if the BNP emerges as the largest party. And Christmas celebrations have been held around the world. Worshippers in Ukraine, China and Pakistan gathered for Christmas Eve services at their local churches. In Bethlehem, Palestinian worshippers gathered at Dara Latin Church amid a fragile truce between Israel and Hamas. Here, the Syrian capital of Damascus. While in Berlin, people went for a Christmas dip.
Santa and his team started at Barker Pier.
A skiing Santa delighted crowds during an annual water skiing Santa event in Alexandria, Virginia. And King Charles attended Sandringham with the royal family, as is traditional, with William, Kate and their children greeting the crowds.
Thank you very much.
The King had this to say in his Christmas Day message.
Peace through forgiveness. Simply getting to know our neighbours, and by showing respect to one another, creating new friendships. Indeed, as our world seems to spin ever faster, our journey may pause to quieten our minds.
And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.
Many thanks, Simon. Welcome to Sports News. And of course, from the Africa Cup of Nations, where three-time African champions, the Super Eagles of Nigeria, will be aiming to secure qualification to the knockout stage when they meet the Carthage Eagles of Tunisia in their second Group C fixture in Fez on Saturday. That's tomorrow. Now, the Super Eagles enter the match following a 2-1 victory over Tanzania, while Tunisia began their campaign with a 3-1 win against the Cranes of Uganda. Now, the first meeting between the two sides dates back to 1961, when they contested a two-legged tie in qualifying for the 1962 Africa Cup of Nations.
I can tell you something now in my mind. I have two options. The first is maybe to let the ball to Tunisia, and try to, when we get the ball back, to go directly to score a goal, or to continue with our philosophy. So, because Tunisia is a great game, maybe we will change something.
It was a painful loss in 2019. Yeah, it gives us more confidence, like when we talked about it. We don't want to think about what happened, we just want to face this one, because definitely it's a new team, good players, a good group. So we're talking about it, and we actually spoke highly of it, because it's not going to happen twice, hopefully. Yeah.
Mohamed Salah scored as 10-man Egypt beat South Africa 1-0 in Agadir to become the first qualifiers for the knockout stage at the ongoing 2025 AFCON. The Liverpool star converted a penalty on 45 minutes, and South Africa were denied the spot kick late in the second half when Yasser Ibrahim appeared to handle the ball inside the box. Egypt were reduced to 10 men in first half added time when right back Mohamed Hani was shown a second yellow card for a stamp, followed by a red. Veteran Knowledge Muzona scored as Zimbabwe came from behind to draw 1-1 with Angola in Marrakesh as the second round of AFCON group matches kicked off. Let's talk club football now, and Liverpool head coach Arne Slot admits it should be impossible to be a top 4 team with their poor record at set pieces. Liverpool head into the weekend behind 4th place Chelsea, only on goal difference, as their effectiveness from open play has compensated for the issues they are having at free kicks, corners and even throw-ins. Liverpool have scored just 3 set-piece goals while conceding 11 in the league this season, and it is a point of frustration for Slot. West Ham United boss Nuno Espirito Santo says there is still plenty of room for improvement as his squad look to kickstart their survival bid over the hectic festive schedule. A winless run of 6 games, including successive defeats, has left West Ham 5 points adrift of safety in 18th place. With home games against Fulham and then Brighton ahead of a trip to bottom club Wolverhampton Wanderers on January the 3rd, Nuno wants the players to stay in the right mindset as they plot a way out of the relegation zone. And the main news again. U.S. President Donald Trump today announced that he ordered the U.S. military to launch strikes against the Islamic State militants in northwestern Nigeria. And the federal government announced that the U.S. strike had President Bola Tinubu's backing on the joint counterterrorism efforts to address ongoing threat of terrorism and violent extremism. And that's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Ayotunde Balogun. Do have yourselves a lovely weekend, and of course, enjoy the rest of the Yuletide season.